we're going to talk about mastering the gradients. And these are super powerful local adjustment tools inside of Lightroom. And with the brand new Multimodal for Lightroom Classic CC, we're giving you even more power behind the gradients in the form of the actual control of all of the adjustment sliders after you've applied the gradient, as well as the linear gradient, as well as the brushes. So first of all, we want to look at the gradient key. With the Alt modifier, we can also invoke the linear gradient if you just want to do the sky or on top of an ocean. We also want to take a look at the Alt and the W key, which will invoke the gradient brush to further refine it. And then we'll look at the two different modifiers, the Alt key as well as the Control key, not to be confused with the Command key, that will let us take full control of all of our basic adjustments with our keyboard. So let's jump into it, go into Lightroom, and the first thing we're going to do is reset this image to as it was shot. And so out of camera here, this is a difference between the radial gradient and the linear gradient. If I just press the gradient key, which is the Q key here, what's going to happen is that it's going to choose the radial gradient, all right? Now, if I press, and if you look over here, we've got this invert checkbox, okay? Now, if it's unchecked, when I draw a circle, and let's say I want to use one of my presets, we've got burn heavy, dodge heavy, burn light, dodge light. We've also got minus and plus bright, which is great for wedding dresses without blowing out the highlights, as well as skin soft and sharpen. Let's say we just want to burn heavy right now. Now, with the invert unchecked, what will happen is it will burn everything outside of the circle that I draw. Now, I'm going to undo that. And if I were to invert it by pressing Shift and invert gradient, and now you'll see that the checkbox is checked. Now, whatever is inside the gradient that I draw will be affected by whatever preset or options that I have chosen in my effects panel in my Gradial Radiant. Very cool. Now, if I chose the linear gradient, I just invoke that with the Alt option key and I press the Q button. And now I can just drag, and now I've got a straight line between what's affected and what's not. And if you want to press and hold the Shift modifier, that will keep it perfectly perpendicular to the horizon or the vertical as well. Now, if you want to see your gradient, just press the tab, and that toggles the hide or show pin. And when the pin is black in the center, that means that particular gradient is selected, because of course we can have multiple gradients. Now I've got two gradients, and when I select the gradient, I just click on it. I can press delete. I can choose this one, and even after I've selected the gradient, I can press and hold the Alt or Option modifier, and you'll notice that my mouse turns into a double-sided arrow. Now, right on the picture, without having to move my mouse over to the side panels, I can click and drag any changes I want. So I can increase the depth of the exposure, decrease, or I can drag to the left to make it lighter. So this is really powerful because I can not change my focus from the side panel to the image, and I can keep on modifying it to taste. I'm going to delete that right now, and let's just fix this image once and for all. Let's choose the radial gradient. I make sure that it's not inverted by pressing the Shift and the Q button. Now I'm just going to protect this little section, and I'm going to show my gradient, and I'm going to drag that over, and I can change even the shape or the size after the fact, okay? So I want to protect my couple here, and the groom's over there as well. And right now it's a little bit heavy-handed, and this is where the amazing new Control key comes in handy. And now when I press and hold the Control key, all of my green basic adjustment keys come to life. So now with my Control key, with my pinky, I can increase or decrease the exposure. And if you take a look at the image, it's only affecting the gradient parts that were affected. Now I can press and hold the Shift modifier, and just like the basic adjustments, we have full and fast 1/3 stop increments. I let go of the Shift, and now I can fine tune it into 1/3 exposure increments. Very awesome. So similarly, I can make the sky bluer by decreasing the temperature. I can add some contrast to this. And again, we're only affecting the actual gradient areas. Now, I'm going to press the gradient tool to get rid of the gradient. So I'm back to the basic adjustments. I'm just going to add a little bit more tonality to this. And I noticed, you know what? I think that I need to have my couple just a little bit brighter in this scene, all right? So I'm going to go back to my gradient. This time I'm going to choose to invert my gradient. So you'll notice on the right side here that when I press Shift and Q, it will be check marked on the invert. And that means now if I could dodge light, I'm going to just brighten up my couple here by dragging a little bit over here and just brightening him just a touch. Now I'm going to hide that right now. And there's other parts of this scene that can use a little bit of brightening. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press Tab to reveal the gradient, and that is selected right now. And what I'm going to do is choose the Alt key and choose my gradient brush by pressing Alt and W. Now this is super cool. With my gradient brush now, if I have a little plus in the center of my brush, that means I'm going to be adding to this gradient. And so if I wanted to add a very slow flow, let's say 15%, and a very big feather, I can brighten any part of this image, like the tower over here that I want. All right. And because the flow is so slow, and I'm just using a mouse here, or my trackpad, I can slowly work that until I like it. I'm going to take off the pins by pressing Tab, and that looks about right to my eye. And now I'm just going to add a preset, my F1 preset for outdoor pop, and I'm just going to add a little bit more drama here with some shadow detail and clarity. And that's a little bit overdone, but you kind of get the picture for what's possible. And now here is the before out of camera and the after, and that is the amazing power of the gradient tools and all that Motibotto gives you literally at your fingertips. So I hope you enjoy using gradients as much as we do, and it just is amazing the difference you can make with gradients in Lightroom with Motibotto.